Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lenny and my discussion of The Crossing. Thank you for joining us. Before we get started, Lenny, would you mind just kind of introducing yourself to everybody and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
100%. Yeah, my name is Lennox. I go by Lenny. I'm a writer. I write Australian Gothic fiction. Kind of the mission statement of my work is to kind of give a bit of a voice to kind of young men in the modern age through literature. We see a lot of people kind of breaking out in like self-development spaces and all this kind of hustle bro culture, but I feel like literature doesn't really have a voice for young men. And I'm a big fan of like horror, like Gothic fiction. So I'm kind of just blending the two, and this is kind of like my passion. I write on Substack. If you want to go and check out my publication, it'll be in the link in the description. It's called Messages from the Deep. I got short stories, poems, some essays, all just really about it's Australian Gothic fiction, really about kind of young men and kind of like our journey in the modern world. Essentially, it's kind of like that's kind of like the thesis of what my work is trying to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see Cormac's influence in your writing. And so
Yeah.
if you're a reader of Cormac McCarthy and you like McCarthy, go check out what Lenny's up to. It's really good. It's really, really good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, without further ado, I think we could just jump right into this. So you've mentioned in the past that this is your favorite novel of all time. Would you mind telling us why?
Yeah, I mean, dude, I think there's a couple of different factors, including kind of when I read it. And there's some other things that you just can't quite fully explain. It's just kind of like a certain feeling. You know what I mean? I feel like it's really at the core of it, as much as we like to act all like analytical and like literarily educated, it's really just kind of like vibes at the end of the day.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I think this book, The Vibe, just like meshed with me, the kind of philosophical Western kind of odyssey. Just that on its own is super cool. That's enough to get me intrigued. And then when you go into the amount of detail the book goes into, with the philosophy, but also just with the internal journey of this character, and it's done in such a beautiful way with such beautiful prose. It doesn't rely on kind of these like internal monologues and all these like rants and like character like, oh, my life sucks so much, but like we see the growth organically over the course of like 4 or 5 years, however long the novel takes. And I think the reason it stuck out to me when I read it is because it's it kind of mirrors the kind of archetypal journey of a young man, and like kind of coming to coming face to face with kind of the reality of life, as opposed to the dream we have of life, kind of when
Mm.
we're young and when we're full of wonder. And it really asks the question, like, how do we hold on to our sense of hope and optimism when the world shows us how dark and ugly it can really be? And I think this book is both a cautionary tale and kind of like an uplifting tale, in that we see that kind of loses his sense of optimism. He loses his sense of connection to the world. But through time and time throughout the novel, there's always little scraps that are given to him. And
Hmm.
that's it. Unfortunately, not all, most of the time he kind of rejects them. But the fact that they're there, it leaves you with a sense of hope. And to kind of wrap up and answer your question, I mean, it's really just like a journey that I relate to more than any kind of archetypal journey I've seen in any novel. You know what I mean? Like, I can't relate to books where the protagonist is like a young girl, or you know what I mean, and going through those kind of journeys. There are plenty of other great books, but this book, it just feels like the most like closely knitted to my experience with life. Not that I've had anywhere near as bad experiences as Billy, right? But it's the kind of journey of the young man, and I think it just
Yeah.
encapsulates it perfectly. And then on top of that, it's just a cool Western philosophical adventure story that kind of meshes all my interests in one kind of package, better than any book I've read.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fascinating how we do watch that development that Billy has, and yet Cormac doesn't really write internal monologue. I feel like
Exactly. Yeah.
we have all these authors who are kind of like sad boy fiction. It's like, oh, I was hurt when I was little and like this and that, and you can see that in Billy.
Yeah.
Like it happens to him, but Cormac just portrays his actions in such a an amazing and beautiful way that he allows you the insight into Billy's character by watching his actions rather than him having
Mm.
to tell you how he's
Exactly.
feeling, which
Yeah.
is wonderful.
100%. And I mean, like, I think, like, people always say show, don't tell. And a lot of the time, like, I kind of don't like that advice. But I think in this instance, when it comes to interiority, I think it is really beautiful to kind of just show how someone acts, because how someone thinks isn't really a reliable indicator of their character. You know what I mean? Like, because we
Mm-hmm.
can control the narrative in our head. And I do that all the time, right? Like, we all do that. We control the narrative of who we are in our head, but it's how we act in real life that really reflects, who we are as a person. And I think this novel, it perfectly kind of like shows you that without getting his like all his opinions and views in the way, because I feel like it would just muddle the journey. You know what I mean? It would kind of just muddle the experience as the reader. And for some books that works because that's kind of what it's going for. Um, Stephen King can do that well occasionally. Sometimes it's a bit indulgent. I'm not sure if you've ever read The Stand, but it's like 1,200 pages of internal monologues. Um, but like some books, he does it quite well. Like in The Shining, you're meant to not know what's going on, who's crazy, who's you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But for this
Yep.
book, it would have just gone in the way, and I think he has I think McCarthy has a perfect amount of restraint, but also he goes all in on the right things, but he has restraint on certain other things.
Yeah,
That's kind of that's just my take on that whole interiority thing. I think it's a perfect balance in this book, I think.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to know, like, so you've read this book very recently, and I just kind of want to like, how does it stack up for you? Because I know you have good thoughts on it. I know you have your favorites, obviously, and it's hard to knock off the favorites that have been sitting there for a long time. Where does this book kind of sit for John?
Yeah. So I did just read this book recently. I read it within the last month, and it's probably my fifth favorite book of all time, which doesn't sound great, but I mean
It was pretty good.
it's competing with Lord of the Rings, which I for a multitude of reasons I don't think will ever come out of my top two.
Yeah, 100%.
Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. I mean,
Mm.
I feel like the main character in that is I relate to so much in so many ways, which is horrifying and quite a revelation when you're like, okay, this axe murder is like literally me, and that makes you think
Yeah.
very deeply.
Yeah.
um,
I got to read it. I bought it recently.
yeah,
So,
that's a
yeah,
wonderful book. It's
yeah.
such a good book. And The Count of Monte Cristo,
Mm.
and
That's a
oh,
mammoth of a novel right there.
that is, but it's the whole thing is it flies by. It's so good. And so yeah, it's competing with those. So it's in my top five.
Yeah.
I love it. Feel like Cormac did this. He's just done this wonderful thing, and I agree with you. It does feel like an archetypical journey, especially for the kind of the modern day man. I just like you. I've never. I mean, I've lived in the East Coast of America my whole life. I've never been. I've been out west, but I haven't lived out there, and I've not gone on these adventures. I've not had any crazy traumatic experiences like Billy's had, but I really do relate to him in a lot of ways because I feel that we all think the world is like gonna be this chivalrous place, and I think that that's kind of what he was doing with the wolf, right? In his first quest, and then you slowly come to realize that, or maybe sometimes abruptly and quickly, that the world is a lot darker than that. And
Yeah.
Cormac has this wonderful way of like, really, this novel is very crushing and very sad, but you catch this amazing sense of catharsis in which, I don't know how he does that, but you can watch someone else's tragedy and be healed by that.
Yeah.
And that to me just blew me away. And I feel like my favorite novels are the ones that kind of there are all these how-tos on writings like, oh, you need this kind of conflict and you need rising
Yeah.
action and falling action. And my favorite authors, and this is why Cormac McCarthy has become one of my favorite authors very quickly, my favorite authors are the ones that take those rules and flip them on their heads, and he does that so
100%, dude.
well.
Yeah,
He
just
just
fuck
like
the rules,
undermines
dude.
all the
Honestly.
rules.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I love that. Yeah. That's so good. Yeah. Dude, yeah, he follows zero rules in this book. You know what I mean? Like, there's no three-act structure, really.
No.
Like, there's no villain in this book. Like, there's nothing. This book basically is the complete opposite of what any professor would tell you to write. You know what I mean? Or even any like reasonably successful like genre author or someone who
Hmm.
runs like a course on like the 90-day novel, how to write a novel in 90 days. Like, you know what I mean? This is like not something you would ever like goes against all conventional advice. And yet it's because of that. Maybe like most people who try that will probably fail, but McCarthy's probably like one of the 1% that gets it right, you know?
Yeah,
And I think it's worth just going for that. Like
absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how many times have you read the book?
That's an interesting question. So given that it's my favorite book, the answer might surprise you. I've only read it start to finish one time, but I've
Okay.
gone back and read it and read sections of it multiple times.
Hmm.
For me, just like I experienced that single journey. It felt like it was a part of my life. And I want to like kind of like keep that sacred. You know what I mean? Like at some point I'm gonna read it start to back again. But I've gone back and read basically most of the book multiple times at this point. But in
Hmm.
terms of start to finish in one go, I've only read it one time. But I've read all the
I think that's
stories
all it
again.
needs,
I've
right?
read it. Sorry.
I said that I think that's all it needs, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. 100%, dude. But I mean, I've read all the main bits again. So I've basically read it multiple times. But
Hmm.
in terms of one sweep through one time, um, I've read the final 100 words like 12 more times. I just go back and read anytime I feel inspired or I want to feel inspired to write. I just read that final passage again
Hmm.
from the point where with the dog and when he wakes up the next
Yeah,
day. I just reread that. It's my favorite like piece of writing ever, basically. So I just reread that part
absolutely.
all the time. I'll just be like, I can't sleep, and I'll just pick this up and like, yeah,
No, I
yeah,
think I have questions for what you think on the dog, but I think we should touch on that later because
yeah.
maybe we should go through it a little chronologically just to
No, that's good. That's good.
keep it all straight. But I mean, what do you think of Billy's initial quest? Like what do you make of that? And yeah, like what do you make of his initial hopes?
Yeah. So with the wolf and all that, it's interesting. I've seen a lot of theories about stuff that sounds super crazy, like the wolf is Jesus and all
No.
that. Or some, yeah. I didn't really see that if I'm being real to you. For me, it felt more. I Well, I'll start by saying I actually watched the book club call, and because I couldn't make it, it was at like 2 a.m. But I saw the book club call for the crossing, and you mentioned how there was like this knight's quest,
Hmm.
and I think that really resonated with me. It just clicked in my head. Right, he has this noble mission that seems so right, you know, even
Hmm.
though all the adults, right, everyone would say that it's wrong. It doesn't make sense. Like you can't save this wolf; it's injured. But when you're young, you have this kind of spark, you know, like this kind of like this innate sense of goodness. You just want to help everything. And it
Hmm.
gets kind of numbed down throughout life. But Billy, he's 16, he has this. And he goes off on this kind of fool's errand, but it's in reality, it might seem like a silly quest. But to him, it's like this knight's quest. It's this grand mission. It just seems so aligned
Hmm.
to his soul and to his like just innate sense of goodness. And I think the parts where we follow the wolf are very beautiful. I know in the original drafts, there's like the entire open part of the novel is from the wolf's POV or something.
Oh wow.
Those parts got scrapped eventually, but there's
Hmm.
somewhere to read. I've never read that, but I've just heard that. And I think the wolf is really Billy's gateway into like life. You know what I mean? And obviously, when the wolf is killed, it's the world kind of coming to meet Billy, right? Like he's
Mm,
kind of put himself out there, and the world kind of tries to shut him down, and it's kind of like this test, like on his knight's quest, and it's basically what the way I interpret it is the world saying we don't really care about your intentions, right? Because I know that happens to everyone. Like we have goals, we have ideas, but then the world will show up and be like, "That's not how it's going to fly."
mm,
Um, and whether or not there's some kind of like consciousness that's deciding, I want to test Billy right now and see how he responds. I think when we tie that through because later we're going to talk about the parables, and I think there's like a direct correlation. I think we can see God in this novel, and I think we actually see his movements. I want to talk about
mm.
that more, but I think this is God's first moment of really putting his fist down and saying, "I want to see how Billy reacts to this." You know what I mean? Like it's kind of
Yeah.
the first test in his journey. And yeah, I've heard about the Jesus thing. I didn't really see that. To be fair, I didn't really see how the wolf was Jesus. Like, did you ever think of that? Have you ever heard that?
No, I've never, and I haven't really researched. It's clear that
Yeah,
you've understand a lot about this. I hadn't seen that or researched that. No.
yeah, yeah. I've heard. I actually don't. I haven't read into like the explanations behind it, but
Mm,
I didn't really. I guess it's kind of like this sacrifice, but well, not.
I
It's
see.
like the sense that when the wolf died. Yeah, I don't know. I never saw the Jesus thing, but I just saw this knight's quest, and I saw God coming to test Billy
Hmm.
at the end. And it's like it's not the Christian God in this book. It's like a Gnostic
Yeah.
kind of I wouldn't say uncaring God, but it's a God that has its own way of doing things. You know what I mean? And it's not
Yeah.
too interested in the individual people, but there is like a wider logos that we can't understand. And it's not our
Hmm.
job to understand. And that's what we get to with the parable of the ex-priest and the heretic later on. But it's not our job to understand God's movements, his his logic and his way of doing things, right? It's something completely beyond us. And that's kind of
Yeah.
like and it's kind of a scary thought. It's like this existential dread. And I think that's what really happens to Billy. That's why it's so
Hmm.
impactful, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of so, yeah, that's kind of my take on the wolf at the start. At the start, it's like really God's first chess move in this book is kind of taking the wolf away
Mm,
and kind of ending that knight's quest. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
yeah.
Once again, kind of what was your initial thoughts? I know you had similar things to do with the knight's quest. That's kind of
Yeah.
that's where I got the term from, actually, from you. But like it's like this mission. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I'd like to mention real quick. It's interesting that you mentioned the Gnostic God with Cormac McCarthy because I think that's something he seems to delve into often, and
Mhm.
something that just seems to like be overarching in his works. And it's strange because it just kind of it makes so much sense that it shouldn't make sense. Like that
Yeah,
it makes sense that it doesn't make sense because right, if we could comprehend the ways of the universe or God or karma or whatever you want to call it, it wouldn't be God, right? If we could fit it
exactly.
inside of our
Yeah,
minds and comprehend it, it wouldn't be what it is. So
yeah,
I think that's fascinating, a very interesting take. Um, yeah, to me, and this is why I felt like I related to it was it did feel like a Knight's Quest. And some people I'd spoken with some other people in the book club, like you'd mentioned, and they said, "Oh, it's kind of like Don Quixote," and I didn't see that at all. Like I didn't feel like it was ridiculous.
no, I don't think it
I
was like
honestly, yeah, I looked and I was like, that's like I would want to do that. That's like I have cousins who I feel like are I who are just kind of a little bit they're younger than me. And I was
yeah.
like, I could see them doing like I could see one of them in particular doing exactly this, being like, yeah, I need to bring this wolf home.
I thought it was a very genuine, profound mission, even if it
Yeah,
seems like unreasonable to an adult. But from Billy, I didn't think it was like a fool's errand in the sense that
no.
he's kind of an idiot. I thought it was like is a really genuine, profound kind of mission. This like You know what I mean? I think there was legitimacy, like
Absolutely.
there was internal legitimacy behind it, even if it seems silly from, other people's point of views.
Yeah, I mean, the reason it felt so resonant with me, and the reason it felt like it just made sense, it clicked, was because, right, traditionally the knight protects the feminine character from, the dragon or what have you, and this wolf is pregnant, and so
Yeah.
she's the symbol of, femininity or fertility, and so this is in many ways Billy's maiden, right, that he has to
Yeah.
protect. And I feel like that's why it's so tragic, right? Because his image of femininity, which, if you look at how men and women interact and work, right, you're whole once you're with like your soulmate, right? That's kind of like the
Yeah.
classic understanding of, like, love and the family, right? Is that a man and a woman, come together, and that is, what brings around a family. They complete each other in a way. And it felt like once Billy lost that, he could no longer be complete, right?
Yeah. Wow.
And he was kind of like grasping for scraps when in the next quest, I felt like, where it was like, I need revenge and I need to like gather back together my family's belongings, and then, like, further down, his brother's bones, like, he has no family. And it felt like once
Yeah.
he lost that, like, North Star of like femininity, of the
Mhm.
female, like, I don't know, persona, that
Yeah.
he lost his ability to be whole. Like, that's why I was like, wow. And I don't know
Yeah.
if Cormac was thinking that when he read it. The guy is out of this world
Who
genius.
knows
Like,
what he
how do
was
you?
thinking, dude? Who knows what he's thought when he wrote this book?
He was probably thinking bigger things than that, but and
He's probably thinking
that's why it's
nuts
so
stuff.
good. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Damn. That's such a good take, dude. And it's like it really resonates with the way I read the novel. I think you worded that very well, dude. That was awesome.
yeah. I mean, touching on kind of another feminine figure in the book, what do you think of? And I don't know if you caught this, but when I was reading the book, I felt like there, and I tried to go back and find it multiple times, and I searched really hard, and I was trying to pinpoint where, but there was somewhere in there where I felt like the girl that Boyd, in the second part of their adventure, who ends up becoming his lover and like completing him, right, being his
Yeah.
family. I felt like she was described similarly to the wolf, and I couldn't find where, but and that might just be me misperceiving it, but did you catch that anywhere? Do you have any idea why Cormac might do that?
Yeah. I didn't catch specifically her getting like just described like like the wolf. But what I did pick up on was how she kind of she definitely does mirror the wolf in Boyd's journey, compared to Billy's journey, right? I feel like the girl is kind of, like you were saying, she is the feminine North Star for Boyd. I picked
Mm,
up on that. I didn't quite pick up on her getting described like the wolf. And I remember you mentioned it a while ago. I've tried to look back. I couldn't quite find it. But I think there's definitely probably something there. It feels like something that would have been intentional, given what she means in the story. But yeah, 100%, right? Because Billy kind of leaves his family to go and protect this feminine North Star, right? To protect this wolf. And then Boyd kind of leaves Billy to go and kind of be with this girl. You know what I mean? So
mm.
we see both sides of the decision. We see
Oh yeah.
Billy when he's the young naive kid going off to on his knight's quest, and then we see Billy as the family member who's looking at it like, "What are you doing? This is kind of silly." You know what I
Mm,
mean? So he's kind of like Billy almost becomes how I presume that dad would have thought of when Billy left the first time. He would have been
hmm.
like, "This kid's he's young, he's making a dumb mistake." That's probably what their father would have thought, and now that's what Billy's thinking of Boyd, right? Because he's been through that journey and he's seen that it doesn't end well, right?
Mm,
So now he's kind of, and that's his transformation. We've seen him go from the young naive kid to the older, more um, skeptical, pessimistic in the span of like a year at this point. Like not even that long. Like even like not that many months. Like it wasn't that long. But he's already gone through this journey. He's become kind of weathered and pessimistic. well, Boyd has found his knight's quest. He's found this girl who becomes his North Star, right? The thing that completes him, and they run off together. And then Billy's
Hmm.
left alone yet again, um, after the wolf died. Um, so yeah, I 100%, yeah, I think that was intentional. The girl is kind of Boyd's wolf in a way. I didn't
Yeah.
pick up on the description thing. I want to go back and look. Do you have any idea like when that would have been? Like what scene or?
The one scene I feel like it was, this is where I looked the hardest. So I don't know, I may be just conflating the two scenes, but it was kind of funny, a funny scene that stuck out to me, and I thought it was right around the scene where someone is swimming in the river, and Billy and Boyd talk about seeing people naked, which was a hilarious, hilarious
Yeah, yeah,
conversation. And I feel like it was somewhere around that scene, which I think was about halfway through chapter two or getting towards the end of chapter two or part
yeah.
two. I don't know how he breaks it up in parts or books or
Yeah, book
chapters,
two
but
is what I've heard a lot of people call it, part two, but
okay.
it's really the same thing, basically. Yeah, part two. But yeah, okay, I'll have to go and look at that. But yeah, 100% agree with the parallel between the wolf and the girl. 100%. That's definitely there.
Um, there seemed to be like this kind of progression in the novel, where Billy's initial quest was to deliver and protect this wolf. And, his second quest was more to, regain the horses and to take revenge. And then the last quest, it just kind of seems to be devolved. Like his
Yeah,
values seem to be devolving. His last
100%.
quest
Yeah,
is to just recover the last remnants of his family.
his
Like
family. Yeah,
what
wow. Yeah,
what did you think of that? Did that stick out to you?
yeah, 100%, dude. It's like and that's what I'm talking about earlier with like the kind of almost not quite a loss of innocence, but it almost is, right? Like his like plans and his ambitions get kind of smaller in scale, as you said. When you're a kid, it's like the whole world is at your fingertips, and then now it's just like he just has to get this dead body, dig it up, and bring it home. You know what I mean? And it's like you feel he's like the energy of the novel kind of slows down, and it becomes more like he's just trudging through life. You know what I mean? Everything becomes like a slog, and yeah, 100%. It's this like it's like just life basically beating him down essentially, and he's kind of like he's he's slow. Like starts off as like an optimistic kid, and then he becomes like nihilistic, and it's that journey from optimist to nihilist that so many people go through in life. It's such like I said, such an archetypal journey. When you're a kid, you want to be an NBA star, and you want to be an astronaut. But then when you're 40, you just want to pay the bills next month. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's just slowly like gets like worse and worse.
yeah.
Like so I just want to finish uni. Like and it's like yeah, you get what I'm saying? Like it's this slow de-evolution of the soul,
Hmm.
you know? And it's like place in the world, and it's in like because we're going kind of like chronological, so I don't want to jump ahead to myself, but like it all
No,
kind of
go for it.
comes together. Yeah, yeah.
Go for it. Yeah, jump ahead.
Dude, like it's this. I guess well, in order to get what I'm getting at, we kind of have to talk about the parables, which I guess that's
Yeah.
probably the next question anyway. Um, with the first parable, right? This is the one with the ex priest. And the way I kind of interpreted that, it's really about the world. God is the only true witness to reality, right?
Mm.
And then in order for everything to exist, God needs to exist to witness it. Because the whole kind of philosophical framing is that nothing exists unless it is witnessed. And we need God to witness everything in order for it to exist.
Hmm.
And so we have this kind of yearning in our soul to seek God, right? Like every man's built for it, And God kind of has to be real, otherwise we wouldn't be built with that yearning. However, it's not for us to understand God and his movements. Right? It's
Hmm.
not for us to, it's something we have to just like, it's not something we can grapple with, it's not something we can reason with. It's something that's just there and we have to kind of submit to. Like God has his way or its way, whatever you want, however you want to look at it, at moving and with, and like at the end of the book, right? We get the dog, right? And God basically gives Billy he gives him a final scrap of love, right? But Billy rejects it at the end. And that's kind of that's kind of like the stake in the ground that he has become like this nihilistic soul.
Hmm.
And he's no longer open to God like he was at the start of the book. And the whole book is him opening himself to God, getting hurt, and then kind of shriveling inwards over the course of the book. And then when God comes to him with love, he rejects it. And it's kind of like the opposite of Job, right? Like Job um keeps getting beaten down by God, but he keeps staying open to if I'm remembering the story of Job correctly, like he keeps staying open to the love of God. But Billy, on the other hand, kind of isn't ready for it at the end
Hmm.
because he's been hurt too many times by
Yeah.
life, right? And like God, the ultimate witness, gives him like this final scrap of love, and he kind of rejects it because he's no longer open to it. And that's kind of my thoughts on how like his progression throughout the novel and how it kind of ties in with God. The first parable, I've reread it a couple of times and I'm still kind of building my thoughts on it with what exactly it's trying to say. But that's kind of what I got from it.
Hmm.
What was kind of your thoughts, and like what was your thoughts on what it's saying about God and like our connection to Him and all that kind of stuff? What are your thoughts on that first parable?
Honestly, I don't know. I didn't really draw a lot of connections. I read it and I was just kind of flabbergasted. Like I didn't expect like a parable or a fable to be in the middle of the book. I was just like, this is so. It was just so unexpected that I didn't really know what to make of it.
Yeah,
So unfortunately, I can't add much to the conversation.
no,
But
that's all good,
I
man.
everything you're saying, I think is powerful, and I like absolutely see that there.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad. I don't have enough of like a full scholarly take, but that's kind of my thoughts on it. I think that's where my head's at now.
Hmm.
There is still a bunch of stuff in there that I'm still trying to pick out and
Yeah.
understand, and it's still a mystery to me. And that's why I love this book because it's like every time you go back, there's something new to be found. Like there's so many mysteries in it, and that's kind of my take on that one. With
Absolutely.
the blind man, you mentioned Oedipus Rex.
Hmm.
I've actually never read that play um or seen any version of it or whatever. I wanted to ask you what's your take on that with Oedipus Rex and the blind man because I'm not familiar with that. I'm familiar with the general mythos of it, but not the actual
Hmm.
story. So, kind of, what was your
Well,
take on that?
right. So I this parable too. I don't. This is the only thing I have. Like I feel like I'm grasping for straws in this
Yeah,
parable, and I'm having a hard time with it because it Cormac's not just throwing it in there. He's
yeah,
saying something, but I think he's doing something. So maybe it is all about God, the Gnostic God, like you're talking about. But I feel like he's doing something that's so out there, and he understands it so much that he doesn't need to make the correlations obvious.
yeah,
So these are here for a reason, absolutely. They're not meaningless. But I'm looking for a reason, and I think
yeah,
this is why it's such a great book. I'm not really sure, but basically, right in the story of Oedipus Rex, he's there's this prophecy that this son of the king is going to, kill his father and marry his mother, and because of that, the king casts his, infant son out, and his son ends up being raised. I may be conflating this with another myth, but I think he ends up being raised by farmers. And then eventually, in one of his adventures, he stumbles upon a group of nobles who are, I think, abusing some farmer, and he murders them. And one of the men he murdered, unbeknownst to him, is his father. And because of that, he has the responsibility to marry his mother, who's the queen, and to be the king of
Yeah.
the land because he's killed the ruler. So,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
and then he's told later into his rule, like, hey, this actually the tale of Nathan in the Bible, Nathan and David, where Nathan comes to him and is like, hey, have there's this if he and he tells him the parable about the rich man who stole the the other man's sheep, and he's Nathan's making correlation between Bathsheba and her husband and David. It's reminiscent of that. So this, which is funny, I think this came before then. So this prophet comes and says to the king, like, hey, a great evil has been committed. And the king goes on this long, like, oh, so many evil things should happen to the man who committed this evil. And turns out, as he discovers, that man is him.
Yeah.
And he's crushed by that realization, and he plucks out his eyes. He's blind. But as the story goes on, it becomes very apparent that in his blindness, he's like this prophet. It's like being
Wow.
blind has given him an insight into the deeper like layers of the universe, and he's gained this mystic vision and not being able to perceive the physical realm, right? And
Wow.
so
Yeah.
just I saw some correlations I felt like with that, but nothing very, very concrete.
Yeah. 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 I mean, they're all tricky, right? Like even I'm just like trying to understand. Like it's all just like speculation. You know what I mean? We can never truly know. Like
Yeah.
McCarthy was very purposely did never talked about what anything meant in his
Yeah.
work. Like, the one thing he ever really said was that the road was about the love between the father and the son. That's the only really like time he's ever said this is what something is about.
Which
And if it
is
ever
very
works,
revealing. Like
yeah, something we didn't know already. um, that's like literally the one thing he's ever said. So like again, it's like there's something very mystical about it. I agree with like when the man has his eyes sucked out and then the world becomes like a rumor to him, right? And it's kind of like crazy. Like this guy just like sucks his eyes out. Like it's
yeah.
the images are nuts. And then they're just
So
like dangling. God, that's so like ugh.
it's like he consumes his ability to perceive the world, right?
Yeah,
Like
wow.
yeah,
And in some ways, he's saved from death, but
because of it. Yeah.
more. Yeah, but is that better or worse for him? Like because he's the world is now a shadow, right? The world is a rumor that he hears of. He feels it, but he can't see it. And it's really interesting. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have like a concrete like statement or like
Yeah.
this is what it's about. The real
Well,
reason. Yeah.
I'm just drawing this correlation now, and this is strange because I was going to ask you, what do you feel the significance of the dog is at the end, right? And you already touched upon that, but it's strange because he mentions that the dog is blind, right? It has like cataracts on its eyes, right? It can't see. And I'm just thinking of this now, right? The man was saved from death because he was blinded. He was like because of that he was considered like domesticated or like unable to commit harm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's strange that the dog is like a domesticated wolf, right? And Billy was attracted to this wild, feminine power in this dog.
Mm.
And then even when he sees a domesticated wolf,
Yeah.
a dog, basically a domesticated wolf, he's so untapped from his innocent younger self, for better or worse, that he can't even interact with a domesticated wolf,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
And I wonder if Cormac's drawing correlations between the blind dog and this blind man.
Blind man. Yeah. That's definitely. I see that now. I didn't really even pick up on that. I mean, as a correlation, yeah. I think about the blind man. it's tricky. I don't want to like say anything like just off the top of my dome and it just be like the most random thing ever. But I'm still thinking about this part of the book. Even the first parable, I'm kind of like I'm just grasping it a bit.
Hmm.
But I feel like both of the parables are leading to something that happens at the end of the book. That's my suspicion. We
Yeah.
talk about the world needs a witness, and then we talk about this blind man losing his witness to the world,
Mm.
and then we talk about Billy losing his hope. You know, I feel like there is like a three-step kind of um path there. There's something's building to something, I feel like.
Yeah.
But the whole book is kind of building to an idea. That's why, again, like this book, it doesn't have a three-act structure with the typical setup, blah blah. It's like this building on ideas and concepts, and it's done in like an entertaining journey. But I do think there's a reason they're in the order they are, and there's a reason. Obviously, there's a reason they're there.
Hmm.
I'm just I haven't yet put like a thesis. I haven't yet like been able to say what it is, but I know that it's building to something. Like the two parables, the dog at the end. It's like I can see the thin line between them to do with like
Yeah.
God and witnessing and blindness, and there's something there. I'm still trying to like come out with you know the take, right? But
Hmm. Yeah.
but yeah, it's all
Yeah.
together, right? It's all knitted together. But I like how it's not obvious. Those
Yeah.
are the kind of books that you
Absolutely.
reread and the books that stick with you.
Hmm.
Yeah,
For sure.
100%.
I feel like, especially with how Billy's life progressed, I feel like a lesser author, like myself, like I could see myself doing this, you know, and that's with the presupposition that I could come up with such a wonderful story. But I feel like if I had, you know, I would get to the point and I'd be like, yeah, and then he goes into the Second World War and he more trauma and his friends die. But no,
Yeah,
I love how Cormac doesn't give him
yeah,
the chance to find a new purpose, right? War is like
mhm,
where men, bond together and find a purpose. And
exactly.
you
Yeah,
kind of see this in, Blood Meridian in some ways.
yeah,
Um, but men bond together over a common struggle, against their enemies to find a purpose,
yeah,
But I love how Cormac kind of, or at least in my perception, it seemed like Cormac was just like, no, you've lost that, and that was crushing, but I felt like very profound.
yeah. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
dude, have you started reading Cities of the Plain?
I have not. No,
Yeah.
I picked back up oh, what's the All the Pretty Horses, because
Oh yeah.
I wanted to touch back up on John Grady Cole's story before I went into that one. And
Yeah,
now
yeah.
that we're having this conversation, I just want to read The Crossing again. So I may not get to Cities of the Plain for a while.
Yeah, no, that's all good. Well, touching on that point of men finding their purpose, I think there's a reason he didn't go to World War II because he does find his crowd in the
Okay.
third book. Yeah, and that's why
Okay.
that's why it's a trilogy. That's why it's not a standalone novel. That's why we have John Grady Cole and then Billy, and then because you see the way John Grady Cole's story ends, it's similar in some ways.
Hmm.
Um, and then their stories both end, and then in the third book they kind of come together. So
Mm.
the third book, in my opinion, is still the weakest of the three, but it's still a good like third book's interesting. The first three quarters of it is kind of like a bit more pulpy than the rest of
Hmm.
them. But then the final epilogue kind of like just wraps up the whole trilogy quite well. So like because
Okay.
of that, I don't know how to rank the third book, but it was originally a screenplay that he had written before he even started all
Mm.
of it. So you can see that in the first three quarters of the book. It's kind of more actiony, more that kind of thing. But then it becomes we wrapped it up well at the end. But yeah, I'd recommend you still like definitely check out Cities of Plane to see how it concludes.
I will. Yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely will.
yeah.
I feel like
But this book
it's.
can honestly be a standalone book. Like in my head, sometimes I even just think of it as like its own canon, and
Mm.
then you can then if you want to see if you want to find out what happens, you can read Cities of Plane. But this book it
Mm.
can just stand on its own and be perfectly a standalone book. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, that's what it's talking about. Like, we don't, it's not our job to understand the way God moves, right?
Yeah.
So it would have been perfectly symbolic for Billy to go to war and then get his purpose, refine that, but he doesn't. But maybe it's to give him something greater later on.
Mm,
Like, uh, yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
Maybe we
awesome.
should pick that. Maybe we should pick that question up when we discuss Cities of the Plain, I
Yeah, definitely,
guess.
definitely, yeah. I'll try and make it to one of the book clubs. It's just like it's like 2 a.m.
No, I hear you. It's
One day I will, yeah.
it's tough.
I'll get to
No.
the Blood Meridian one probably, or the Sustering
Ooh.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, what was I going to say? I mean, what? Oh, yeah. So, what do you think is the significance of the book being called The Crossing? Do you have any theories on that?
Initially, it kind of just felt like a bit of a generic title, just crossing the border and whatnot.
Hmm.
Um, the more I think about it, it can be taken a lot of different ways because it is kind of like a simple title, so it could be interpreted in lots of different ways. It can be the crossing into like a new world, and Mexico is like this new world for him. It can. I haven't thought too deep about the title, to be honest with you. What did you think? I'll get your opinion and then see if I can build on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think it's wonderful when an author can make a title that does is covers both the spiritual and the physical aspects of the book. So I think
Mm.
obviously, there are multiple times where he crosses from, America to Mexico and America and back and forth.
Yeah.
So it's funny that it's not called Crossings or The Crossings, it's The
Yeah.
Crossing, right?
Yeah.
Singular.
So there's one journey really that happens over the course of the whole book. Yeah. Yeah.
So I wonder if it's him crossing from, I mean, I feel like saying him crossing from like naive and childlike to, an adult or a man is too simple. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, honestly. I could not tell you. And I think I'm kind of, not that I'm done grappling with his works, but I think I've kind of given up trying to comprehend what Cormac McCarthy is doing.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I'm just, at this point, I'm just kind of like experiencing it and feeling it.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
the way to go, dude. Yeah.
I
I haven't
I,
thought.
I couldn't
Yeah.
tell you. Yeah.
I haven't given too much thought to the title, if I'm being honest. Like,
Mm-hmm.
apart from what you said, the crossing to Mexico and the crossing in his own internal world. Apart from that, like, maybe it was just an easily marketable title to really, you know what I mean? Like, you never really know, you know what I mean? I haven't thought too much
Yeah.
about the title, if I'm being real with you. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, if you could ask Cormac McCarthy like one question about this book, and even if it was like, "What are you doing with this? What do you think?" And he had to answer it, like not like, "Oh yeah, it's about the love of a father and son." Like, "Oh no crap," like a real question. What would you ask him?
It'd be like, it's about a wolf and a boy.
Oh, okay,
um,
great.
I thought about this, right? Because I think I would ask him the obvious question would be, what does it mean, right? What were you trying to say with the book?
Hmm.
I don't know if that's what I'd ask him. I honestly want to ask him as like a writer, as like a creative
Yeah.
who's aspiring to write great literature. I wouldn't ask him any craft questions and nothing like that. I'd literally just want to know like how long was this idea inside of you before it became on the page? Like what
Hmm.
what is the journey of this idea from conception to finished novel? Was it 10 years? Was it 20 years? Like because the book it only came out 2 years after All the Pretty Horses, but he was writing them both at the same time
Yeah.
for about like 8 years. So um when did this book I would want to know like honestly just as a bit of like understanding with my own books. I have all these ideas. Like I want to understand when do I start writing them? What you know what I mean? Like what's the process of like did he just get this idea and start writing it the next day? Or
Hmm.
was it years of thinking and contemplating and growing, you know? I would just want to understand like how long was the complete process? Even just to give me some like solstice as a writer, like you know what I mean? Just to make me feel better, like that
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's taking a bit, right? Like honestly, if I'm being completely honest, that's what I would want to ask him,
Hmm.
just to get a bit of clarity on what the journey is like as a
Yeah.
writer, as opposed to like a craft question or what does it mean? Because like I don't think I want to know what it means exactly from
Absolutely.
him. I want to create my own mythos about this book. And I think that's probably what he wants as well, given that
Hmm.
he doesn't talk about it. And I would almost think, I'd almost be willing to bet that in his mind, the meaning is fluid as well, as opposed to being like, I know there's a general gist, a general thesis, but I think in his mind, like, I think all great authors kind of let it be up in the air a bit so the reader can kind of take something new,
Yeah.
you know? And I think honestly, that's what I'd ask him. I'd ask him like, not what it means, not you know how like not how did you write it, how did you set up the blah blah, like it would be, I'd want to get an understanding into the process between inspiration, ideas, contemplating, and then actually writing the book. That's
Yeah.
what I would ask personally.
Absolutely.
And because this, for my opinion, it's his best book, this would be the, you know, the perfect one to kind of ask about to see how it grew, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'd ask. It's probably not the most exciting question,
No,
compared to a
I,
lot of people.
I
But
agree
yeah,
with you. Yeah. I
yeah,
don't think, I think that the other thing about great fiction, right, is that there can be things going on that even the author doesn't comprehend or understand.
yeah,
And um, I think that's like I, I'm I have the same feeling as you do. Like I have ideas that have been sitting in my mind for like I mean I'm only 20, but it's like forever. For
yeah, yeah,
7 years is half my life. And that I'm just now writing down, and I'm like, wow, this has been boiling, slowly down
broadening, yeah.
to you know and just fermenting for ages. And I agree. I absolutely agree. I'd love to hear his process. And he would probably, the funny thing about asking McCarthy a question is he would probably be like, well, I don't know. I feel like I may be wrong, but I feel like he would say something super mystical that would
Yeah.
end up being like, well, we probably all existed in some speculative intellectual plane of spirituality that God comprehended us in until we were later manifested in bodies. So it's probably I feel like he would just give some crazy
Yeah.
answer that would be like a
Yeah.
puzzle in itself. But
Yeah. Either that or he'd just be like, you figure it out. You know what
exactly,
I mean? Yeah, yeah.
which
um,
can you blame him? But
yeah, no, no. Yeah. It makes me think because like the novel I'm working on now, the idea of it was conceived of relatively quickly in order to be my first novel. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But like what's happening now though is I'm spinning things that I thought I would save for later. I'm just
Hmm.
spinning them into this idea. So like I'm not like wasting the good ideas. Like it's a good, like I love the story I'm writing, but it's, you never know what a particular book is going to bring out of you. Like
Yeah.
in terms of exploring your interiority as like yourself. And this book, it's kind of like the encapsulation of my teenage years and my so far young adult years, I guess you could say, or like my journey from curious to kind of, there's a lot of my book about curiosity and like particularly curiosity at danger and
Hmm.
the kind of the excitement towards there's a bit of darkness out there, like what's going on, and then kind of like how that evolves, over time through teenage years into adulthood. I'm not going to give too much away,
Yeah.
but yeah, like there's this balance between letting ideas sit for a while, but also just like writing stuff and just getting better at the craft. And I think this book is really it's me getting better at the craft, but I'm dealing with ideas that will probably stay in my work for a long time
Yeah.
and will evolve. And then maybe 10 years from now, the really good book comes out. You know what I mean? And that's like the one that summarizes whatever thesis I'm working at. But I want each book to be like a statement of how good I am right now. You know what I mean? I want it to be the best thing I can do right now. So it's a balance, dude. I feel like should you write your magnum opus now or save it for later is a question writers always think about, like,
Yeah.
and currently, like, I'm kind of saving it, but I'm also like, I feel like you should just write what you feel pulled to
Hmm.
right now because the soul doesn't know time, right? Doesn't know
Yeah.
when the soul doesn't care when your book needs to come out or how many copies it's going to sell or how good you are. It just wants to channel this energy. And I feel like I'm writing the right book for me at the moment. This just randomly became about me. I'm sorry. I didn't.
No, no, man,
It
keep
kind of
going. This
segued
is
into that.
wonderful. This is
Yeah.
wonderful. This is, yeah, no, that makes me so excited because I mean, I feel like, and this is perfect because I was gonna ask you, like, what in this book inspires you to write, and I feel like it's just awesome because we're on the same wavelength. You're answering the
Yeah.
questions before I'm asking them, which is awesome.
Let's go.
But that just makes me so excited because I feel like the greatest pieces of literature and the greatest pieces that I've written, the greatest pieces that I've seen, that I've read, is not the author preaching, right? It's not you telling the
Yeah.
audience like don't do this and don't do that. It's
100%.
you grappling with an idea, right? You don't have it all figured out, because how can you, right? That's why Cormac seems to be so obsessed with this idea of God being this idea we can't comprehend, right? Because how could we understand our life when we're inside of it? We have to grapple
Yeah.
with these human experiences and ideas and the pain we feel. And that just makes me so excited because I don't know, I'm just so excited for your work, man. And
Thank you, dude. Appreciate it.
it makes me stoked just to just to talk about it.
No, it's all good. I'm super excited. It's moving along. I'm trying to balance. Like I made a note about this the other day. Like on Substack, I'm trying to balance producing like content for my readers and building the audience,
Yeah.
but also really giving my books the time they need to
Yeah.
really be great. And if that means I don't release a book every year, like it's maybe every 3 to 4 years, but I'm like, it's a balance I got to find.
Hmm.
For the past month or so, I've really just been working on the book in terms of fiction. I've written some poetry, but in terms of fiction, I haven't released a short story since I think sometime in February. I think it was 18th of February. So it's been about a month now that I've really just been on the novel, trying to figure out what the ideas are, the symbolism, trying to put it together, And I think it needs space, it needs time, it needs focus, but it can't be forced. You can't just say like, I want to finish it by the end of March or the end of this. It has to be like given space, but also attention. If that
Yep.
makes sense. Yeah, I'd say in order to create good literature, it's not about like it can't be forced in the sense that I have to finish it by X date, but you do need to give it space in your life to grow. Like you have to give it attention, but don't worry about when it's going to be finished.
Yeah.
That's kind of my philosophy. Like spend time on it every day, every week, but don't have a deadline.
Hmm.
Right? But if because you're spending time on it all the time, it'll get done. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it's never going to be. The
Yeah.
books that don't get done are the books where the author just gives up, like or
Hmm.
barely writes it. It's the inconsistency. As long as you're consistent, don't worry about whether it's going to be done this month or next year. Just keep coming back to it. Keep getting into the groove of the craft and of the ideas and the translation between because it's a muscle. You got to train that translation between your brain and the paper, and even if you believe in, I kind of believe like this creative ether, it goes to your brain and then your brain puts it on the paper. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's a connection both ways, right? You writing the story and you finding the story.
Yeah.
You got to train that three-way path, and it takes time. It takes like you got to give attention to it. I don't think
Hmm.
literature was meant for like weekly content. You know what I mean? Like it was meant to be having years to like years given to it, but it's kind of just like the name of the game nowadays. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
is you got to like build an audience online and do all this kind of stuff in order to get people interested. And that's just our unique battle as authors. We got to find out how to solve that and how to just work with that and not get pissed off and not run away from it. You know what I mean? It's easy to
Yeah.
get pissed off. I just want to write my book and like fucking fuck Substack, whatever. But no, I love doing this, right? But there's benefits and negative sides to it. You know, like
Yeah.
I love the community of Substack, and that's awesome. But I also love a bit of that like solitary, just like in my world. You know what I mean? Like for weeks
Hmm.
doing my thing, but then it's a balance I'm trying to find. But yeah, I won't talk too much about my book, but I'm definitely pumped working on it, and there's going to be more short stories in the next couple months. And after this first draft's done, like the rest of the year, I'll be putting out work on Substack, trying to
Hmm.
get to like 500, potentially. I don't know if I can do 1,000 by the end of the year subs. That'd be hard, but I want to get to 500 and get an audience, and just build my audience. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. And I'm feeling that too, man, because I just started my Substack, just over a month ago. It's I think about a month and a half now. And I was just kind of shocked the other day when I was like, whoa, I've been spending so much time producing content, which I feel proud of everything I put out on Substack. Like,
yeah,
there's nothing I feel like I was like, that was really poor. I didn't do a good job on that. I didn't try. I feel like I poured my heart into everything, but it's like, wow, I have not been working on my novel because I've been
yeah,
producing all of this other stuff. And so
yeah,
I just recently went back to that and I was working on that last night. And yeah, no, it is a balance that you need to strike between building an audience and finding that time to delve into those deeper, darker, and maybe pain parts of yourself to try to really um, build or discover your novel.
yeah,
Absolutely, yeah, I agree with everything you said there.
yeah. I think we're gonna have to really get used to potentially longer timelines with our work
Mm,
nowadays, right? But I think that can be a blessing in disguise because a lot of the time it's not always how much time you're writing the story, but just how long it lives in your head.
yeah,
So much more can just grow from that.
absolutely.
Even if a book takes 10 years to write or 20 years, like Lord of the Rings, right? I'm not sure how long of that 20 years he was writing the book. You probably know more about it than me, but I guarantee maybe if he was a full-time author, maybe he could have written it in a couple of years, technically. But because it was an entire period of his life,
Yeah.
so much more could go into it. And I think we may be forced into that with this online world. We'll get to take longer to work on these pieces because we can't put all of our time into them. That can be a blessing in disguise because let's say you work on your novel once a week, and then over the course of the next week, so much new inspiration comes into you before you sit down to write it again, as
Yeah.
opposed to just like working on that every single day. And measure that over the course of years, right?
Hmm.
You've written like an 80,000 word novel over like 2 years, and you could have written it in 2 months if you really wanted to. But it was just, you gave it so much more room to breathe and it became so
Mm,
much deeper. And purely by the fact that it took up more of your life, it has more in it. Like it has more
yeah.
sustenance. You as a person have changed since you wrote chapter one, you know? Whereas if you write it in a short stint, you haven't really changed in 2 months, you know? So like there isn't as much emotional resonance in the work. Like Stephen
Mm.
King, he says he likes to finish a book in 3 months. First of all, that's insane.
We're gonna have to try to resume from that point because that was just amazing.
I was on a
But
roll, and then
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, so you were saying Stephen King writes a book in like 3 months.
Yeah, so I'm saying he writes a book about 3 months, and like you could do that. I could like physically, I could do that. The thing is, like, say if I took 2 years to write a book of the same length, the reason it would be better is not purely because I spent more actual time on it, but just because there's been more time. I've lived more life, essentially,
Mm,
if I want to be as concise as possible. Because I could have maybe even spent like not that much more actual time on it. Maybe only wrote it twice, like twice a week or something. But
Yeah.
like there was so much more room for growth and kind of internal reflection, and so much more went into the work. Because when you first start out, you can release a book every year, but at a certain point, you just won't be able to keep saying anything new unless
Yeah.
you give yourself reflection, take a step back from creating, and just live a bit or consume, read books, just like gather more inspiration.
Hmm.
With the whole Substack, building an audience, being a modern day writer, it may not be that we take these huge breaks, but we just spend our time on other works. You know what I mean? Stuff that
Yeah.
gets posted or to for free or for paid subscribers or whatever the thing is, right? Like just having multiple things to work on, give each one a bit of space and room to grow. That's kind of my philosophy, you know. But yeah, that's kind of just me. That's basically what I was saying, to put it concisely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there is a lot of truth to that, and I've never thought of it that way. But giving it time to age, like a fine wine, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if I had like the idea for this book kind of came to me September-ish. If I just read it then before Christmas, it wouldn't be half the book it is now.
Mm.
And I'm like halfway through it, maybe. You know what I mean? I don't know how long it's gonna be. I'm like halfway done, but it's already like 10 times the book just because of the rumination and the
Yeah.
revision I've done and how the ideas have evolved. So, it's really an art, not a science. There's no some books are written super quickly. The Road was written in like 6 weeks. Like the some like it's an art, not a science, right? There's no strict
Yep.
rule, but for me, I'm just kind of letting things marinate a bit. That's kind of my philosophy. But yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll say that, but that's just because I just don't work on my big novel.
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
I'm giving it room to grow.
8 months later, kind of like George R. R. Martin.
Yeah, I'm a pantser. Okay, I'm not a plotter. I don't know what's gonna
Yeah,
happen yet. I don't know.
absolutely. Well, I think we should get wrapped up here, so I
Hmm,
can let you go and get on with your day. But I have one last big question for you. This book is very dark,
yeah,
and I mean it's obvious with your work on Substack that you write works that are also, very dark. And what do you think the value is in, especially for, I feel like there are so many people in my circle, or like in my family, who read books that are, cozy or easy to read.
yeah,
And what do you think the value is in reading something that's truly dark and writing something that's truly dark?
yeah. I think ever since I was a kid, I've always been more interested in the villains, right? I've always been more interested in stories where things don't quite go right.
Mm.
And I don't think it's because I'm messed up. I think it's because I've just kind of managed, like, I think I intuitively just know that we don't really learn much from the good parts of life, right? And people talk about that all the time in like the self development space and whatnot. But when it comes to art, I think, sure, you can read a cozy escapist book and that's awesome. But I think the greatest works of all time, they really grapple with something truly tough. But it's a training ground. It's an artistic, intellectual training ground because whether or not we like it, we can try and make life as cozy as possible. But life is always going to be hard, right? There's always going to be tragedy. It's learning to kind of go headfirst into the suffering a little bit and learn that there is actually meaning on the other side, right?
Mm.
I think the books with the most meaning are the books that may not be the darkest books ever, right? Like super messed up stuff, but it's like we're grappling with the hard parts of life.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this book is so powerful. And I'll get to in a minute why it has the catharsis, because I have my theory with like the final sentence. But it's we just learn so much more from hard things, but it has to be done well. It can't just be like your typical horror book where everyone dies and then you're like, fuck what? Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, there's a certain amount of stillness and peace that comes through getting to the other side of something truly difficult that you don't get just by being chill all the time, you know? Unless,
Absolutely.
and you might say, what about all these? monks that just sit and meditate all day. Like, you don't think that's hard? Like, you think it's easy to just like sit in a cave and like not eat for 3 days? Like, that's just their own way of embracing suffering, but doing it kind of detached from the world, from the social political world, right? They're still doing hard stuff. Like, there's no one that just has this super easy life that has a real character, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of just reality. Even like the people who are like monks and all that kind of lifestyle, they're not running away from life. They're going headfirst into the soul, right? And that's hard. I think it's more hard, arguably.
Hmm.
It's not like an escapist route in life to go become a monk or to like be super spiritual. Like, it's a tough path. Like, don't get it twisted, you know? Like, there's no, the only true peace and stillness comes on the other side of suffering. That's kind of my take on life, really. And that's kind of
Yeah.
what I'm trying to put into my work. And even the stuff that has like a cozy vibe, like even stuff that's whimsical, like Lord of the Rings, it's still this hard journey. Like, it's these dwarves, sorry, these hobbits, not sorry, these hobbits, and they're going on this. There are dwarves as well, but they're these small. It's the ultimate underdog story, right? And
Yeah.
they go through this hard journey, and there's orcs, and there's goblins, and they have to climb up the mountain. There's a giant spider that nearly kills one of them. It has, yeah, there's a bit of a whimsical tone to it, like with the Shire and all that. But it's really like, it is a story about resilience and overcoming hardship and about triumph.
Yeah.
I would be hard pressed. Anyone would be hard pressed to find a story, a truly great story that is just like cozy and there's nothing, you know, because like what transformation is there
Yeah.
without that? You know, like, if you can find one, like, I don't know. I don't think there is
Mm.
anything else. Like, yeah, and I think there's obviously different degrees, and I like to push the envelope a bit with how dark it can get without it being self-indulgent while still having a purpose, and that's probably just the horror fan in me wanting to stay alive while I write real literature, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. But I like to really push the envelope and see how dark it can get, and I like to read books that push it. And this book, it's not super like, it's not a horror book at all, but it's dark and it's sad and there's a lot of loss and there's a lot of sorrow. I think sorrow is the right word
Yeah.
to describe the pure emotion of this book. And it's deeply sorrowful, this book, but it has a catharsis. And my theory on why the catharsis works is really the final sentence of the book, right? So the book, we get Billy, he falls on his knees and he weeps because he can't find this dog, right? He wakes up the next morning and he realizes what he's done. He's rejected this gift from God. He's rejected this wolf that needed him. So he goes out, he yells out, can't find it, and then he falls to his knees and he weeps. If the novel had ended there, it would be an amazing novel still, and it'd be great, but it would be kind of depressing to end it with just him crying. But we get this final line about the sun rose again, once again for all and without distinction. What it does is it takes it from this small world on Billy and his sorrow, and we expand outwards, and we see that the world moves on, right? And while the universe and God might not care about your individual feelings, they might not care about your plans, but there is a greater good at work. There's a greater path moving forward, and the sun's going to rise again, and it'll rise on poor people, it'll rise on rich people, people with no family, people with lots of family. Like, it just, the fact that we zoom out a bit and we see that the world still moves on, it lets us kind of recycle, and like it lets that grief kind of wash through you in this very
Mm.
natural way. We're not running away from the pain, but we're going right into it, and then we kind of let it wash through, and then we see that there's this peace and stillness on the other side. And
Yeah.
that's why this is my favorite book, because it's the ultimate like example of my thesis, basically, of my work. Hardship, pain, but then stillness.
Mm.
You know, and I think that's why we get that catharsis, is because we see that the world still moves forward, essentially. And it's that final sentence that does it. Yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
That's amazing.
That's kind of my take. But yeah. All right. I guess I might just throw the question back at you, if you don't
Yeah.
mind. Yeah, what
Well,
elements of this book? What is that the question you asked? Or
no, I just asked what value do you see in reading dark fiction?
oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
No.
I was looking at the no, it's all good. I guess yeah, I'll just throw it back to you. I know you obviously you've read Dostoevsky, like you love this book. So what's kind of your
Yeah.
take on that with dark fiction?
I honestly I think you touched on everything. Like to there's no transformation staying where you're comfortable, right? Growth is in pain. And I think it's beautiful that you mentioned the end of the book because I'd totally forgotten that he cried at the end. And it may be because I read this book, but for whatever reason I've had the image of tears on my mind recently. Right. And tears are so strange. It's something children cry, all the time. And usually they cry, when they're confronted with a problem that they can't surmount, a problem that they don't have the mental capacity or the understanding to surmount the issue, and so they break down into tears. And what I've heard some people speculate in kind of the scientific and um, uh, well, in the scientific realm, is that what crying does as for an adult is it reduces your neuroplasticity, or it increases your neuroplasticity, which is your ability to comprehend, to discover a new way to, or to discover new things. Basically, it reduces you to a state that's so childlike that you're ready to learn something new, right?
Wow.
That's what children are so good at, right?
Wow.
Children
Yeah.
learn quickly. And it's so
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like books that can truly like books that make you cry.
Yeah.
Those are the transformative books. Those are the dark books because we've gone to a place that's so deep and dark inside your soul through this character that it reduces you, or it confronts you with a problem that you cannot overcome, and it reduces you to that state, right? And that's what it's done to Billy. And I feel that's what this book did to me. I think that's the
Wow.
value, right? If a book can bring you to tears, if a dark book can do that, and it confronts you with a problem where you are ready to learn how to overcome that, how to grow, that's the value of reading dark
Wow.
fiction.
That's such a good way of thinking about it, dude. Like it brings you back down so that you're ready to like a phoenix rising from the ashes. Like
Yeah.
that's so good. Yeah. Wow. And I think it's like for a lot of men, it's like it takes a real breaking point to get us to cry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like so we just have to go through that, and it's almost like we kind of have to earn it. Is kind of the way we think. You know what I mean? The
Hmm.
male, the male gaze, I guess you could say. Um, I'm trying to think. Does he? Obviously, he cries when his parents die. He cries when he sees Boyd in his dream, which that was like the most chilling part of the book
Yeah.
to me. I was like, shit. It's like, damn. That's like that almost reminded me of like a horror book. Like this like dead boy is like there. That was scary. That was like yeah, intense. And then yeah, this
Hmm.
final time, it's like yeah, that's where the ultimate catharsis comes from. You that was
Agreed.
so beautiful the way you described that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, as long as there's nothing else on your mind, I think maybe we should end it on that note.
I think yeah, let's end it well. We don't need to like
Awesome.
just start rambling on some like just clutching at straws from some
I want to,
random
dude.
idea.
I could be here all night. I want to, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's all good, man. All right. Well, yeah, I got some stuff I'm gonna get done. Thank you for having me, dude. It was awesome.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Love
Yeah,
to talk
well,
about this book anytime. I'll talk about this book anytime. Um,
yeah.
if I had a free day, I'd this would be 8 hours, but
No,
yeah,
me too. Me too.
yeah,
Awesome. Well, we'll stick our stuff in the description for people who want to check out, especially
yeah,
please go check out what Lenny's up to. He's doing great work. And thank you all for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
yeah. You too, man. Thank you. And thanks to everyone for watching. If you haven't gone and checked out John's Substack and you're watching this on YouTube and you're thinking, oh, I have to download another app or all this blah blah blah. just click on it, get the email in there, and his work is going to be in your inbox, and it's going to be worth it. Okay, and at some point download the app because it's where a lot of great writers are putting out their work, and it's still kind of obscure, but it's like the future for giving literary authors a voice and a place where they can connect. And because a lot of us, we feel lonely outside of that. Like, what are you going to do? Write a book and then query for like 8 months to an agent, maybe get a reply. Like, we can get immediate. You can, if you're a writer or a reader and you want to just like see what's happening, go ahead, check out Substack, check out John's work. And yeah, that's all for me. See you guys later.
Thank you so much. Peace.
Thank you, man. See you later.